Yes. So namaste everyone once again. Namaste. I'm back again. So this is the second part of the FDP on human psychology, and very nice to see that last time we could see a very healthy and very fruitful participation from all of you. It was a completely new thing that we try to discuss, but we could see the comprehension that was quite visible on the part of the participants. We also had one keynote lecture recently on a Sunday, and the same content was revised. And we had given you one assignment also towards the end of the workshop. Okay, so how many of you have done the assignment? You can raise your hands. Everyone, very nice. So briefly, we'll just go through that, and in fact, after the lunch, we'll have a detailed session on that. And many of you have also pasted your sheets on the backside. We'll have a look at that also. So no, the screen, the shared window. You have to put in PPT mode first. First presentation mode, and then, yeah, and then go and share. Alt tab. Now you do Alt tab, go to Zoom. Yeah, here. And then here you can share. There is no like both windows not working. Here you can share that presentation mode. Share. Yes. No, go to that green icon. Yes. Yes, that's no, lower. No. Yes, this one. Yes, now it is fine. So we'll have an overview to the psychology FDP, and we could see that psychology is study of the human psyche, and the word psyche has been taken from the Greek language, where psyche means soul and logos means study. So as we could discuss in the previous workshop also, that essentially we are trying to discuss the self. Okay, we're trying to discuss the self and the mental process and their manifestation. So what is going on in the imagination in the self, how it gets conditioned, how it reacts or responds, and we could see various schools of psychology have got developed. So we could see there are 6 basic approaches that we discussed last time. Then in addition, we talked about the humanistic perspective also. And today we are also going to talk about positive psychology. So we could see that something that got developed in the West gradually. It was initially centered on abnormalities in the human behavior, how people get conditioned and how abnormalities appear in their conduct. But gradually they also started feeling that human being just not like a billiard ball, okay, just conditioned from the surrounding outside. They have some basic intention that they want to fulfill, some basic desire that they want to fulfill, and they also people also want to have a fulfilling life. So why not study the basic requirements for a fulfilling life? So gradually we'll see that the psychology in the West is also shifting towards that, and the new development that started in the West is positive psychology. It basically started in 1998. Okay, and since then people have been working on it, and we see that lot many people have come up with lot many theories about a fulfilling life, right? About a happy life, what could be sustained happiness. So people have been working upon it, and they have also now started focusing on relationships. So this is a very good development that is taking place. So we'll review and recap all that we discussed last time. So human value is component of holistic value-based education. So proactively, like we have been working on education, UHV primary, secondary, higher education, which is aspiration centric. So we have the UHV foundation courses like UHV 1, holistic human health 1, UHV 2. Then we have the UHV advanced courses, which are also included in minor degree. UHV 3 to UHV 8, and in that process only we are discussing UHV 6 here. So we had the FDPs here on introductory UHV, then UHV 1. Okay, UHV introductory UHV is the introduction to the whole content of value-based education. UHV 1 is the content that is to be shared with the students during the student induction program. That is UHV 1. UHV 2 is the mandatory course in the second year, where we talk about harmony at all levels of living. And the basic understanding being that we all want to have a fulfilling life, a happy and prosperous life in continuity. Then we also had UHV 3 workshop here, one UHV 3 workshop, I think last year, right? So we try to understand the human being, nature and existence comprehensively in that course. We also had UHV 4 here, where we talk about vision for humane society. So with the understanding of the human being and the existence, how do we have the vision for a human society, right from family order to world family order? Then in UHV 5, we are discussing human values in various philosophies. So we'll have a glimpse in this FDP of the various philosophies that have developed in the history, and that is, I'll say, just few of the philosophies that have developed. We'll talk about them, and then we can work by ourselves on various philosophies in the East and the West. So, for example, human values in Vedic darshan, human values in Bauddha darshan, Jain darshan, Sikhism, Islam, Christianity, okay, and other such philosophies, Taoism, Confucianism, all that we can see, right, across the world, what people have worked upon. So that is UHV 5. And then in UHV 6, we are discussing about human psychology. In UHV 7, we have two courses, human sociology and holistic human health, right? And in UHV 8, we have human economics. So this is the way we have developed the courses. And it's very pleasing to see how SRM has been taking keen interest in promoting these courses. We recently also got to know that 50 to 60 students have enrolled for minor degree, right? So this will really yield in the long run, right? The whole ecosystem getting built up here. Then we have the mentoring programs, right? So faculty mentoring and student buddy programs. So we can see that students are having several issues like stress, issues of stress are there, or other such psychological issues are there. So proactively we are working on education, and we can proactively also work on mentoring, right? And then actively we can go for counseling. So some concern centric aspirations like the stress management or the psychological disorders which can come up in the students. So how we address them. So counseling is there. Then we can have programs for fulfilling the sustainable development goals. In fact, we have also been working on redefining, or let's say representing the sustainable development goals in terms of various aspirations that we are discussing here. For example, if you talk about elevation of poverty, it is something to do with ensuring prosperity, isn't it? When they say quality education, it is essentially to do with value-based education, right? There are so many goals to do with fulfillment in the nature. So we can uh, redefine the sustainable development goals in terms of the basic human aspirations. And then other measures to address the concerns or problems like arbitration or something. This is something that is not required, being reactive. So when the problems have gone out of hand, then like going to courts, jails, execution, all those things. So essentially, this is not our basic concern. We'd like to work proactively and actively, right? It's not working. So all the courses, now probably the cursor was not there. Okay, if I close then. Okay. अच्छा ठीक है, I'll come disclose. ठीक ठीक. So as we discussed last time, the purpose of this course is to explore basic concepts of psychology with an emphasis on, I think we can reduce the window size. Otherwise, I cannot read the content. To explore basic concepts of psychology with an emphasis on developing clarity about full human potential. So this purpose has to be clear. It's not that we are just going through the various theories in psychology, but we are also trying to see how these theories can help us develop to our full human potential, isn't it? So the goal has to be clear. And in terms of this goal only, we are also trying to make an appraisal of the current theories, isn't it? To study the work done in psychology so far in the East as well as the West, in tradition as well as in the modern era, and then to identify the steps for going from where we are today towards realizing our full human potential. And that essentially means to initiate or strengthen the process of self exploration to become aware and make effort for realizing our full human potential. Right. So essentially, we want to develop as a human being and we want to develop to our full competence. Right. We want to become excellent human beings. Eh? Okay. So, in order to make progress in reaching to our full human potential, we share the gist of some efforts in psychology as examples. So, major schools of modern psychology, then psychology discussed in various traditional philosophies. So, the detailing of all the topics covered in philosophy are discussed in UHV V, not here in UHV VI. So, we are not going to discuss all the philosophies in detail. Like if you even pick one darshan, basically in the West, the word is psychology. In India, we have been using the word darshan. And in fact, darshan word is more precise because darshan means what I observe. Okay, that comes up as darshan. Sometimes when we use the word philosophy, it can also come out of thought, some theory, something, right? But that's why most of the time I will be using the word darshan here because the way people have observed the reality, the human being, the nature, the existence, they have tried to express this, right? And we can appreciate the depth and width to which people in the tradition have tried to observe the reality. So we are not going to discuss all those philosophies in detail that is there in UHV V, but we'll have a look at the psychology emerging out of the darshan. So since we are studying about ourselves, self-exploration is an effective process. So we'll go by this process. And this will enable us to discover a specific path to our self-development on our own right. We'll cover few examples, not the full extent of every effort. Each one of us can participate, share our explorations regarding various schools of psychology or philosophy that we are familiar with. And now there are groups also. We have formed several groups to work on various philosophies. So we have groups presently working on Jain philosophy, Christianity, Tamil philosophies. In fact, we could also pick some philosophies that have come up in the South, right? And then see how people have tried to address human values, right? And going by all that, we can bring out the universal component of whatever has come up. In this way, we'll be able to enrich the course material for UHV VI and UHV V and participate in this evolutionary process to understand ourselves and the whole existence in completeness, celebrating the strengths of every effort and make effort to fill the gaps, if any, right? Now, all of us who have been through the workshop and also have been going through the morning sessions can see that the basic need is to be a pure observer. I need to observe the reality as it is. I need to observe myself. I need to observe my coexistence with the body. I need to observe my relation with the human being. I need to observe my participation in the nature. I need to observe my being in space. And this is what people have tried to observe, right, through the ages and try to share. There could be various limits to it. That is fine. But we can appreciate whatever effort has been done. And this also instills a feeling of glory in us when we try to look at the sincere efforts that people have done. So the expected outcome could be students are introduced to human psychology and the efforts made to understand human psychology. They are able to understand the self, that is the consciousness, and the role of sanskar in conduct of the self. Now, when we're doing the first part, we could see how conditioning takes place, right? So there are various theories of conditioning. There were various theories about how we get influence from sensation, from social norms, from the culture, okay, out of peer pressure, or how our body also affects our preconditioning and our sanskar. So that was quite an enriching experience to see how we can make out the way I have got conditioned, right, since childhood. What has influenced me? What made me behave like this? What made me think like this? What made me decide like this? And I think this is something that we can keep on exploring. So while we are also evaluating our sanskars, we have to also see how the sanskar got built up. Then we can work at the root cause of that particular sanskar. And then we can also observe our natural acceptance and see how it can be set right, how my sanskar can be replaced with the right sanskar. Able to understand the psychology of human being when guided by right understanding. The students are also introduced to various theories in psychology in the tradition as well as the modern era, and they are able to make an appraisal of the concepts proposed in psychology and see the way forward towards one's full human potential. So this is the course outcome. Any comment about this? This is fine. Anything to add after going through the exploration in the previous workshop? If you would like to add something to the course outcome. So the basic challenge that we can see is how to take this whole transformation down the line in our students, right? And that is something very kind of challenging task. So we are able to attend the workshops, we are able to also transform ourselves, but how this transformation percolates to our students in a sustainable manner, not only during these 4 years of stay in the campus, how it can transform their life. And for that, we have to make effective plans and strategies, isn't it? How to actually transform them, how these courses are going to help them. So the scope of the study would be like these 8 points and something that we also shared in the assignment. So now going through various schools of philosophy or schools of psychology, right? How we get the clarity about the human psyche, that is the self. We can call it mind, consciousness, soul, as it is called by different thinkers, philosophers, or rishis. Then determinant of the conduct of human being. What is determining our conduct? Okay. So according to a particular school of psychology, what clarity do I get? So for example, if you are studying structuralism, you can see how my conduct is determined through sensation. If you are going through this evolutionary psychology or functionalism, you can see how my conditioning gets set within me and how my conduct is determined. So this is something that we had to also do as an exercise. Then the full potential of the human psyche. So when we say full potential, so what would be uh, the state of the human being who is living with completeness of right understanding, right feeling? That is the full potential. So we could see certain limitations also. When we were studying the various schools of psychology, we could see certain limitations also. In some schools, this has been addressed. Some schools, it has not been addressed. Okay, and that is something that we try to make out also. Some prominent problems associated with an undeveloped human psyche. This is something that was quite visible in all the schools of psychology that we studied. Okay, so an undeveloped self, how does he or she behave? What would be the behavior patterns, the thought patterns? Then process of developing the human psyche. So various processes have been proposed. So you can see in the West, many therapies have been developed. Okay, and people are actually studying those therapies and also practicing it. So if a student has stress, then how to bring the student out of stress? If a student is having some suicidal thoughts, can this theory help in removing that suicidal thought? Or somebody in depression? So all those issues are there. And how can this actually help in developing the human psyche? So essentially, it is the process of seeing, exploring, understanding, and then resolving the problems. Then expression or proof of a developed human psyche. So how do I say that, yes, this is what I really want to be? Does the School of Psychology actually address this? So the full human potential of the human psyche and the definite human conduct, how does it get expressed through that particular school of psychology? What are the major contributions of this school of psychology and what from it applies to us? So basically, how does this psychology apply to me? So we can see the relevance of the particular school of psychology in our own life. Does structuralism work for me? Do I also get motivated by sensation, right? Or do I also uh, make aspirations for my survival or to fit in the society or to sustain my generation, isn't it? How do I determine my goals in life? For example, the Maslow theory is there, right? So does it actually apply to me, this Maslow theory? The classical conditioning, does it really apply to me? In what manner? How do I get conditioned? So that way we can observe every school of psychology and see how does it apply to me. Now, in this part of the workshop, we are going to talk about various darshans that have developed in India. And here also we can see how it applies to us. And then what are the limitations of the school of psychology? If there are some limitations, then we can make out. For example, if a particular school of psychology does not talk about the full human potential, okay, that becomes one limitation. Or it only talks about the problems or the abnormal behavior, but not the way out, right? So that could be the limitation. So we are expected to explore these 8 points from the inputs to draw our own inferences. We'll have to keep standing like that. I can do that. Okay, okay, ठीक है, ठीक है. So this was homework part 1. Kindly fill up the columns for each school of psychology discussed so far. So structuralism, functionalism, psychodynamic psychology, including Jung's concepts, behaviorism, right? And you can use AI tools like ChatGPT for getting further details, but double check them with the authentic sources. We suggest to prepare one chart per group of 4 or individually if the group of 4 is difficult. And we can place the charts in the workshop hall for the forthcoming 4-day session. And we'll refer to this homework in part 2. So this is what we are going to do. So many of you have pasted your charts there. So have you done individually or in groups of 4? Okay, nice. Yes, that is nice. So now this chat GPT is quite effective, I can see. So I was collecting initially material from some books on psychology. I also went through some textbooks of NCRT. But what I found that if you chat GPT, you get very categorical content, point wise in a very bulleted manner. Only that you have to cross check it. So we all can use this AI and then develop some material. That is quite fine. So now we have discussed up to humanistic psychology in the previous workshop. So this is, in fact, in some articulations, we will find that they call 7 schools. Okay, but generally it is called as 6 schools, and the 7th one is the perspective. So for simplicity, I'll call 7 schools. Okay, so in these 7 schools, we can study all this and then reflect upon these 8 points. And then we are also going to talk about positive psychology in this FDP. So study of human psyche that we have done in UHV 1 to UHV 3. So now based on the content that we could explore through UHV, so we could see that human being is coexistence of self and body. Self is the consciousness, body is material, right? And then we could also study the 10 activities which are classified into B1 and B2. So B1 is the block of right understanding, B2 is the block of imagination. And we could see how these activities are there and to what extent I have been able to develop these activities. We are using the word sanskar because there is no direct translation for sanskar. So it could be considered as assuming or conditioning, right? So these are the deeply held acceptances, acceptances based on right understanding plus acceptances without understanding. So the closest word that can be placed for sanskar is acceptances. So that could be with or without right understanding. And we can observe our sanskars and we can see that essentially in this process of self-exploration, we are all struggling with our sanskars, right? And there are layer by layer so many sanskars, something that I have assumed to be true without verification. And if you start opening it up, you can see there is a lot to explore within. What we have come to assume about a happy life, about a prosperous life, about relationship, about myself, about society, about nature, about my past, my future, this world, this whole cosmos. All those things we have come to assume and accept, and it is yet to be explored. So once we start exploring, we'll see that we might have been able to explore only a small part of it, and there's a lot more to explore, right? But we do have acceptances even without knowing. So you have to keep it open and then keep on exploring. Then determinant of conduct of human being. So how my sanskar guides my feeling, and how my feeling guides my thought, and the thought is guiding my action, that is behavior, work, and participation. So many times we are able to observe our behavior. In fact, in various schools of psychology also, you can see that like in structuralism or functionalism, they were trying to look at the internal process. And when behaviorism came, then they say that this is completely abstract. Don't look at that. Okay, look at only the expression part, the behavior, work, and participation. And then they try to make out the reality about human being by looking at the expression part, the action part. So there are various approaches. Somebody might be focusing at action. Somebody might be focusing at thought. Somebody may even go down and see the feeling. And if you look at the tradition in India, we have actually tried to look at the sanskar only first. So we are directly trying to look at the sanskar, how my sanskar got built up, what the sanskar I have within, and how it is guiding or misguiding my living. So now I have to make out for myself to what extent I have been able to observe this. So if you'll see that in the morning session also, when people are sharing, so the beginners would be sharing the transformation in their behavior. Earlier I shouted, this time I did not shout. Right? Earlier I reacted this much, this time reaction was less. So generally we start observing by observing our actions. Then we can also go and see what is happening at the level of thought. What analysis I made within which transformed my behavior. Okay, so people will say that earlier I used to doubt the intention of the other, and now I can see that the intention is pure. Now there is something going at the level of thought. And since the intention is pure, only the competence is lacking. So I did not react this time. Then somebody would say that at the level of feeling, I was completely comfortable. Okay, so the thought has been taken care of initially. So I'm comfortable at the level of feeling, right? And then we can also talk about the sanskar, the deep down acceptances that I was not able to see earlier that the other is like me. I can see very clearly now that the other is like me. So it is working out, right? It is progressing day by day. And this is how we have to see. And then this sanskar, whether it is guided by right understanding or it is without right understanding, the acceptances. There also we can observe. We can observe the natural acceptance every time. Then the full potential of the human psyche, what we call as swatantrata, right? It can also be called as liberation or something else. So in Indian tradition, multiple words have been used to denote this full human potential. What is the final state, right? Somebody may call it Paramanand, somebody may call it Turiya, somebody may call it Moksha, somebody may call it Nirvana, right? So what is the final state which I have to be in? Then full potential of the self, that is completeness of right understanding, B1, plus purification of sanskar, plus all-encompassing resolution, that is B2, leading to definite human conduct. Then some prominent problems associated with an undeveloped human psyche, the deluded self, so the inhuman conduct. Then process of developing the human psyche, so self-exploration, self-awareness, self-evaluation. This is something that we discussed last time. And that is essentially to see the reality as it is directly, and purification of sanskar. So we have exercises 1 to 7. So in the morning, we are only doing exercise 1 and 2, right? Exercise 1 is about observing the consciousness by the consciousness, that is observing the self by the self. Exercise 2 is observing the material by the consciousness, that is the body by the self. Exercise 3 is observing the space, that is the coexistence. Then exercise 4 is observing the behavior, right? Exercise 5 is observing the work and participation. Exercise 6 is observing the undivided society. And then 7 is universal human order. So this way, we have various exercises. And at every level of exercise, we are trying to observe our conduct and decide our participation. So we all are into this process, but we have to intensify that process. The expression or proof of a developed human psyche, so definite human conduct leading to continuous happiness. or right feeling within, and then leading to mutual prosperity, fearlessness, coexistence in the society. So this is all that we intend to study. Now we'll have to see the various schools of psychology in East or West, traditional, modern era, how it has been able to address all these issues. Ji. So this is something that we got from the UHV course. Now these are the assignments that we took last time. Make a list of desires and analyze whether the desire is related to self or the body. So this was the assignment that we took on the first day. Then go through the content discussed today and list out whatever is not clear. Going further with the exercise that we did today, you can list the transformation taken place in you point wise and the issues where you feel stuck, where you have not been able to transform so far. Now, this is something that we can again do as an exercise, but we are not going to repeat it. This is something as an ongoing exercise. And we always get clear up to certain extent and then get stuck. G. Then on the second day, we had this assignment, take the list of desires. You also may add to it and then find out the source of desire, whether it is preconditioning or sensation or natural acceptance. Then note the sensation from the 5 sense organs and find out what you like or dislike as sensation and why. And note the perception with that sensation. Since we had discussed structuralism on the second day, so we took this assignment. And write down your exploration on the 8 points about the structuralism school of psychology. I may also refer to Google or ChatGPT. On day 3, we had this assignment. Fill up the columns for functionalism, psychodynamic psychology, including Jung's concepts, and behaviorism, as discussed. And then you can use ChatGPT. And for each of the 4 schools of psychology, including structuralism, describe if you find it applicable to your life. If yes, in what ways and to what extent. Also describe the limitations that you see with each of these and your conclusions from the exploration of modern era psychology discussed so far. I hope you all remember these assignments. We had all done this. Yeah. And on the 4th day, we had the evaluation session. So this is something that we did, these 8 points. So the understanding that you got about various schools of psychology regarding all these 8 points. Next video. So this is something that we had to fill up. Now this is the session plan for this workshop. So in every day we are going to have 4 sessions. We have started the first session today with a brief inaugural. Then we are going to have the overview of FDP and also recap the content that we discussed in the previous workshop. In the second session, we are going to talk about positive psychology and happiness, right? The concept of happiness. Then in the third session, we'll have the presentation by you regarding the assignment that you did. So be prepared for that. Every group has to come in the front and share about all those 8 points, right? About the 8 schools. So positive psychology, since we are discussing today itself, we may even not add to your assignment, but for the 7 schools, you can do that. Then we'll start talking about the psychology in the tradition. So we'll see the various traditions. So in India, there has been a Vedic tradition in which there are 6 darshans, like Sankhya, Yoga, Nyaya, Vaisheshik, Purvamimamsa, and Uttarmimamsa. There are 6 Vedic darshans that we'll discuss. Then there has been Bauddha darshan, Jain darshan, and a darshan called Charvak darshan. And there is a new darshan that developed in the 20th century that is called Madhyaf darshan. And in UHV, we have been able to get a lot of clarity based on the Madhyaf darshan. So we'll discuss that also. So on the second day, we'll talk about psychology in the Charvak darshan, then psychology in Jain and Bauddha darshan. And then as a practice exercise, we'll do Vipassana. So we'll try to study what Vipassana is and then practice it. It has been a very effective and fruitful exercise. And people across the world are doing this, right? So just as an example of the various meditation techniques that have developed, we can do this exercise and see how it can help us transform, how I can observe my sanskar through this process. Okay, this is just one of the exercises that we can do. Then psychology in Sankhya and Yoga Darshan. Then on the third day, we'll have a recap and then review the various darshans, that is all the darshan that we discussed up to Yoga Darshan. And then we'll have further detailing about the Sankhya and Yoga Darshan. So all these darshans are quite detailed. Every darshan has its own vocabulary, its own grammar, its own literature, right? And you may study for years a particular darshan, going into details. So we are just going to have a glimpse of it and see how the psychology has evolved through this darshan. That would be our concern. So we'll have limited exposure to the darshan, and our focus would be on psychology. So we'll talk about the psychology Nyaya and Vaisheshik darshan. Then we'll do exercise 1, 2, and some exercise based on Yog darshan. Okay. Then we'll talk about psychology in Purva Mimamsa and Uttar Mimamsa. Uttar Mimamsa is also called Vedant. So that is the concluding part of the Vedic darshan. It is called Vedant, means the last part of Vedas, the Vedic darshan. Then on the fourth day, we'll review all the darshans. We'll continue discussion on the Vedic darshan, and then we'll talk about psychology in Madhyav darshan. And in the third session, so that would be an assignment for you. You can pick any darshan from east or west, right, north or south, modern or tradition, and then you can see how psychology had evolved. Somebody may pick Sikhism, somebody may pick Islam, somebody may pick Christianity. Okay, some darshan that has developed here in the south. Okay, so we can look into all those 8 points in all these darshans. That would be an exercise that we have to do here. So you may be, yes, yes. You may also look into various philosophies like by Socrates or Plato. They have also talked about psychology. In fact, we'll see that many things are quite similar. For example, here we had this Charvak darshan, who totally talks about sensory pleasures as the ultimate. And in the West, we have hedonism. Hedonistic way of thinking also talks about the sensory pleasures as the ultimate, isn't it? So we can do this as an exercise, and then we'll have the sum up and evaluation. Is this fine? Yes. So there would be a lot of content. We'll try to make it as interesting as possible, but there would be a lot of content to discuss, isn't it? So whenever you feel sleepy, just let me know. Hai na? We'll have a joke and then go again, go around discussing. You can leave this. This. You can leave this. Yeah, fine, Didi. So leave this. Yeah, we'll have the next PPT. When do we have the break? 11 o'clock. Okay. No, no, no. We'll have this. No. Yeah. No, that's fine. That was just an overview. हाँ, ठीक है. Yeah, any comment or any reflection based on this? So what you actually gained, what has been your takeaway from the previous FDP that we had on psychology? Something that you could explore further and deeper based on that input? The way it helped you, I'm just asking in general. Did it really help you or not? It helped. In what sense? Okay. And there are people sitting in Ghaziabad also listening to you. Yes. 2.2. नहीं वो फोल्डर होगा. हाँ, 86. 86. Okay. SRM FDP August 2.2. All tab. Nice. You click it the once, the PPT. No, with the mouse. Click it. Yeah. I just leave it. Ah, now it is working. Yeah. Let me see. Again. Some I think no Bluetooth issue is there. Click, click. Now we'll recap the content that we discussed so far, and there could be fresh questions also. So we can go over that. So we could see that human being is coexistence of self and body. Self is something that we term as I. Okay. And now you'll see that when you attended the first workshop, you got introduced to the self and the body, right? And now through UHV 2, UHV 3, we are getting some further clarity. Now going through all these schools of psychology and darshan, you can see how people have tried to look at the self. In how many ways they have tried to address the existence of self. So you'll get further clarity upon this. Now in UHV, what we have tried to do, we have tried to bring out the essence of that has been discussed so far, right? The basic essence. So we can very much see that the needs of the self are different from the needs of the body. The needs of the body are temporary, needs of the self are continuous. My needs are qualitative. So if I want it, I want every moment. If I do not want it, I do not want it any moment. This is very much qualitative.
Bhaiya, one small discussion about the outcomes what you gave previously presented. So, is there any scope for including self calibration also into it?
So when you make an evaluation of yourself, self-exploration, self-awareness, self-evaluation. So evaluation can also lead to a judgment or calibration that you can do. But we are not doing it separately.
Okay. Is there any separate exercises or ways to modify that, calibrate or change?
So essentially, if you see when it is self-development or self-exploration, we are trying to modify that. So by self-exploration, we are trying to refer to the natural acceptance. And that is the gradual process of evolution of the self. In self-awareness, we are looking at the present state. And in self-evaluation, we are doing something like categorizing or judging oneself or making out what is my current state of being. So based on self-exploration and self-awareness, we are able to do the self-evaluation. And in that self-exploration, self-evolution is a natural outcome. So all this put together, self-exploration, self-awareness, and self-evaluation leads to self-evolution.
Baya, actually, she was referring to self-calibration. Would it be like, psychoanalysis?
In fact, we did that MBT test, no?
These days, actually, most of the corporates are implementing this psychoanalytical test to identify what personality is. So maybe in an interview, the person may come out with some kind of wrong, fake data. But in psychoanalytical test, when the same question is being interpreted in a different way, they can't escape. They have to come out. So would that be like, like self-calibration?
So we can do that.
Yeah.
We can have separate measures for calibration. Like in that MBD test that we did, introvert and extrovert.
Exactly.
There were two categories, and there are people were trying to categorize. Similarly, internal or external, something like that. So we can do here. What I feel is that we can make some measure about the understanding and living of harmony at various levels: individual, family, society, and existence. Now, in a profession, they are mostly looking at your individuality, your expression, or certain things. But we can do that in a holistic manner. In fact, we have to develop these skills that we can do. It can be also taken up as an exercise. That based on all this discussion, how do I evaluate? If you want to calibrate, then how do you calibrate yourself? Fine, that can be done. For example, looking at this chart now, when we said that the physical facility is required for the body, and this is only required for three purposes: nurturing the body, protecting the body, and right utilizing the body. Right now, you try to calibrate yourself. When you look for the physical facility, are you able to see the limit for nurturing? Are you able to see the limit for protecting? Are you able to see the limit for rightly utilizing, or you are doing it otherwise? Now you can categorize yourself. To what extent I am able to find out the need for physical facility for nurturing? I was just thinking about one thing, and I found it's quite phenomenal. When we are comparing with people in the society, we find a lot of gap in terms of money. Somebody is having billions of rupees, somebody is not even having thousands of rupees. There is a lot of gap in the money, right? But when you look at the physical facility, there may not be so much of gap. For example, if you look at the food that one is taking, If a billionaire is eating rices, pulse, and grains, we are also taking rices, pulse, and grains, all those things, isn't it? So there's not so much of variation in terms of food. And if you look at the purpose being served, so the food is also not our basic requirement. Our basic requirement is to nurture the body. Maybe somebody who is eating coarse food, living in a village with very less money, is nurturing the body better. So when you're calibrating in terms of money, there will be a lot of gap. When you calibrate in terms of physical facility, the gap would be less. And when you calibrate in terms of the purpose, it would be something otherwise. You are able to consume a lot of ghee and oil and all those things. Somebody earning billions of rupees cannot consume ghee or oil, or may not be able to nurture the body properly. So where am I focused? Am I looking at the money? Am I looking at the physical facility, or am I looking at the purpose being served? If I'm looking at the purpose being served, I may be in a better condition, right? My body may be more protected. If somebody has to carry bodyguards all the time, the body is less protected. I may be having very less physical facility, but my body may be better protected. I may be utilizing my body better, which I'm investing my time and energy for right understanding, right feeling, right? Yeah, when I look at the participation of society, somebody who is running a big industry or running a government or running some uh, large organization, right? They may be participating at a larger order. That is fine. But whether they are participating in terms of order or disorder is again to be looked into. Whether the participation is in terms of order or disorder. So in my thought processes, if this clarity is not there, many times we get entangled in those thoughts. So there could be various ways of calibration. This is a very good idea. In fact, this can be taken as an exercise also. Now people have made some indices, happiness index, if you look at the West, okay, and they have made it completely according to their priorities. So the first index would be the per capita income. The second would be freedom of choice, let's say, isn't it? Now in our country, in fact, this is a categorical difference between the East and the West. In the West, mostly the individualistic way of thinking has evolved. Okay, if you look at the comparisons of the Eastern and Western cultures, right, we can discuss this in sociology also. Mostly the thought pattern that has developed is individualistic. How to have more freedom, more choices, okay, more autonomy. In the Eastern countries, particularly India, we have thought about collectivism. Collectively, how do we develop? How do we grow as a family, as a society, right? So their indices of happiness may not apply directly to ours. So we have to develop our own indices of happiness. Now here also, like when we evaluate, we say talk about your four things that we talk about: your understanding, your thought, your behavior, and your work and participation. So how developed I am in terms of understanding, how developed I am in terms of thought, right? In terms of behavior, in terms of work and participation, that we can make out. So we can have various ways of evaluating a human being. That could be harmony at four levels, or that could be in the four dimensions of human being. That can be done very much. That would be very nice to do. Then we can see that the need of the self is fulfilled by right understanding and right feeling, while the need of the body is fulfilled by physiochemical things. Yeah, in fact, it just came up in one of the sessions. So somebody was saying that we have IQ, intelligence quotient. Then recently, people have developed quotient called EQ, emotional quotient. So I said we have to develop another index, UQ, understanding quotient. Unless that is clear, EQ and IQ will not work. Passion, passion. Okay, live. Yes. But the basic crux is UQ, understanding quotient. Yes. So in fact, we can take it as an exercise. So for example, if we have to evaluate the understanding of a human being, can we make some 40, 50 questions which actually assesses the level of understanding of this person? So before you have to select the spouse for your child, present that UQ to get the understanding quotient of the would-be spouse. So we have to do this. In fact, see how these quotients come. Somebody publishes a paper, with some novel idea, right? And it becomes a theory. This is the way people have developed. Somebody sets up a lab and becomes the theory in psychology, structuralism, right? Somebody is treating patients and he writes a book, the study of dreams, and becomes a theory in psychology. Similarly, we can develop such indices, UQ, understanding quotient, and we can, there are 40, 50,000, 40,000 students here, right? You conduct a survey and make papers out of that. That could quite valuable idea. And we can float this idea of developing UQ, isn't it? In fact, there are so many things to work in this area of psychology or sociology or economics that we can think of. Developing new theories, new ideas, like new patterns. In fact, in the qualitative research, there's a lot to do. How you are assessing an individual, assessing a system by looking, just observing without disturbing the system. There have been so many theories about it, right? Now, can I assess a human being by observing him? If you look at Ayurveda, okay, the typical practitioners of Ayurveda, they will not even touch your nadi. They'll just look at your being and make out what disease you have, what is the history of your disease. That has not got published in any paper. So the world is not aware about it. But these are existing techniques and methods. In fact, where we lack is basically the documentation part. We are doing so many things traditionally, but we have not documented. And we have not made it explicit through experimentation, though we are doing the same thing, right? In the NAC, the major challenge would be like we are doing so many things, but we have not documented. So, for example, you have been helping the society around. You have been doing so many extension activities. You have been distributing food, clothes, all those things, but you're not getting photographed while distributing. So it will not give you marks in NAC. So when you are giving, get yourself photographed and make a document out of it. So that will add points to your accreditation, isn't it? So we have to do that documentation. At a psychological level also, you are doing so many things, right? At a practical level in your living also, you're doing so many things, but you may not be documenting. You are not surveying. If you start that, in fact, this could be a good way of doing research here in SRM also, because there's a lot of emphasis on research here. And you can, putting this at the base, open new avenues for research, developing new theories and new hypotheses. Each of these can lead to some kind of theory. Just we have to look at it deeply. So we can see here that the source of happiness is inside. It is right understanding, right feeling. It is not outside. This chart is very simple but very deep. Now, just by saying this, that the need for the self is fulfilled by right understanding, right feeling, the interpretation is that the source of happiness is inside, not outside. Not even the body. Are you able to see this? Isn't it? But the fulfillment for the body is through physiochemical things, which is always outside the body. You are getting something from outside: air, water, food, shelter, clothes, everything you are getting from outside. Now, here you do not have to depend on anything outside if you have developed yourself. So if I develop myself to my full potential, I do not need to depend anything on anything outside. And you could also have been able to see that your dependence on outside is gradually coming down. Earlier, it may be the case that if there was disharmony in the family, you were getting unhappy. But now you can see that you are no longer depending on the behavior of the other, even in the family or in the organization, in the department, in the market, in the neighborhood. Gradually, your dependence is coming down and your participation is going up for harmony. Earlier, we're not participating and we're depending a lot on others for our happiness. Our dependence is gradually coming down and participation is going up. And this participation is beyond the boundary of a family. Similarly, we can see the activities here in the body and the self. And you can also see that the activities of the self are continuous while those of the body are temporary. And we can see that knowing and assuming are here in the self, not the body. Now, this assuming again has a lot to explore. The sanskars are here in the activity of assuming, right? And we could see that in all the schools of psychology, people have tried to see how this assuming works. Maybe they have not been able to address the knowing part. and they are only trying to look at the assuming part, how it works, how people develop some assumption and how it influences their behavior work. We could also see that if I do not understand the difference of self and body, then I get caught up in this loop. Is this clear? I found that if you look at the present state of society, since people are not clear about the need for physical facility, it is leading to a lot of chaos. It is leading to a lot of economic and social problems like corruption, exploitation, manipulation. If you look at a global level, societal level, there is a lot of crisis. But at the basic level, this is the crisis that people are not able to see the difference between self and body. If we are able to address this difference of self and body and the program for self and body clearly, right, then all those social, economic, political issues also can be taken care of at the very basic level. We are able to address the problem at the root. If a person is able to see that the need for physical facility is limited, why will one ever go for accumulation? Very naturally, one is not going to go for accumulation. Now, this accumulation is leading to exploitation, right? And ultimately, people are deprived. Nice. Any question here? This is fine? Completely fine? We could also see this, that self and body are different. This body has to come, you know, on the right side. So I am there, my body is there. I want to live. My body is used as an instrument. And the aspiration to live with continuous happiness is there in me. The body only requires physical facility. And it is required for three purposes only: nurturing, protecting, and rightly utilizing. Right? Now here again, you can look closely how well you are able to make out the need for physical facility for yourself, for your family. Is it always for these three purposes or something else than that? Then we can also see that my program is essentially to understand and to live in harmony. And the activity that I do for the physical facility are a very small subset of all my program. And I am the seer, doer, and enjoyer. The body is merely an instrument. So we can see that the self is central to human existence. And that's why we are discussing this psychology also, because the self is central to human existence. So essentially, we have to develop the self. The body is merely an instrument in the process. Yeah. Then we discuss the activities in the self. So we could see that there are 5 activities in imagination. So in the imagination, I have this desire, thought, and expectation. And at the level of desire, I have the activity of imaging. Then at the level of thought, analyzing and comparing. At the level of expectation, selecting and testing. Now, when the block B1 is not evolved, not developed, then I have unguided senses, health, and profit. So in my comparing, I get unguided. Right? In my testing, I have unguided sensation. And that is leading to my indefinite conduct in my behavior, work, and participation. So we can see how the preconditionings misguide my imaging, and then it goes further to my selecting and testing, and then behavior and work. Similarly, how I get conditioned or influenced by sensation, it again misguides my behavior, work, and participation. So this is something that I have to make out for myself. So this could be another way of, you know, evaluating myself, isn't it? This could be another way. How, to what extent I am influenced by testing, to what extent I am, you know, at the level of thought, to what extent I am active at the level of desire. So you'll find that there are some people who are largely active at the level of expectation. They are mostly working here by selection and test. There will be some people who will be thought centric, thinking deeply over everything. There will be some people who would be mostly working at the level of feeling. So where am I centered? Am I centered at the level of feeling or thought or expectation? Am I always expecting others to make me happy, physical facility to make me happy, something outside to make me happy? Or I am thinking, you know, mostly how to make myself happy? or I'm active at the level of feeling. I'm able to relate to others. I'm able to contemplate on my participation to at what level I'm living. And the other level could be the level of understanding. See, overthinking means the feeling is not clear, and that's why we are mostly active here at thought level.
Emotionally, if I'm down or something, then it's in a feeling level.
No, it could be largely at testing level.
Testing. So I'm expecting from outside.
Yes, expecting emotion from others.
Any example for I'm in the level of feeling?
Feeling means like I am able to ensure the feeling within me, the feeling of care, the feeling of guidance, the feeling of respect, trust. So I'm working at the level of feeling. I may have a wrong notion of that feeling,
Okay.
but I am still working at the level of feeling. So I generally try to trust people. Okay. Even though people do not behave according to my expectation, I still keep on trusting people, though I do not have the clarity of trust. So I feel hurt, but I keep on trusting.
So basically, if I say mostly we are in the expectation state.
Generally, yes. If you look at the human society, generally people are living at their level of expectation, depending on something outside to keep them happy. That is there. Through education, the present day education, what is happening? People are getting more active at the level of thought. Not working. Not working. There's another mic, no, earlier. That metal one. Yeah, this might be. Yeah.
In the order of things, desire, thought, and expectation, will the thought create feeling, or which comes first, sir? The feeling or the thought? Check.
So if you watch from moment to moment, it could be either way. But in a sustained manner, if you see, the feeling is guiding the thought is guiding the expectation. Something at the level of feeling. Okay, that could be out of preconditioning also. Okay. So for example, I see something and I get influenced by the sensation, it triggers some thought in me, right? But in a sustained manner, how did I get triggered by that sensation? Is something working at the level of conditioning, my sanskar.
Based
So,
on the sanskar, sir?
Yeah.
The preconditioning only.
Yeah.
Preconditioning.
Yeah. So here I have sanskars. So the triggering can take place even from outside. I saw something got triggered in me, right? But at the level of sanskar, there is something working within me. And in a sustained manner, that is working. The sanskar is guiding my thought, the thought is guiding my expectation. Now, if I'm not aware of the sanskar, I even not aware of my thought processes, then I keep on getting happy or unhappy with the fulfillment or lack of fulfillment at the level of expectation. That is there. We have so many examples, right? So you'll see now that in this process exploration, we are less influenced by the feeling shared by others or the sensation from outside. The influence is coming down. Can you see that? Yes, because I'm mostly expecting happiness from outside. No, there's nothing like right or wrong. Expectation is my activity. Now, whether I am trying to be happy by fulfilling my expectation or I am trying to be happy through right understanding. So when I have the right understanding, my expectation will be guided. So I'm expecting this link to work. Even though it is not working, I'm not getting unhappy. Yes. So this is the process evolution. So mostly you will see that people would be operating here at the level of expectation. Then they gradually develop here. So the expectation is my activity. With completeness of right understanding also, the expectation would be there, but it would be fully guided now. So I'm expecting every time. If I'm saying something to you, I expect you to listen. If you are saying something to me, you are expecting me to listen. But if I'm totally living at their own expectation, you are saying something to me, I am not listening, you may get angry. Isn't it? At the level of thought, you'll give a thought to it. Why this person not listening to me? At the level of feeling, something more would be there. You have to feel for the person. For example, a person has come to your house totally tired, throughout the day. You are saying something to the person, he's not able to listen. You are able to even empathize with the person. He must be very tired. Right? Maybe earlier the spouse was coming, you saying that, okay, come with me to the market. Right? And he's not listening. You got angry. This person is good for nothing. Right? You cannot take me to the market. At the level of thought, you're analyzing certain things. At the level of feeling, you're able to empathize for the other. Yes. 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 By being active at the level of feeling. So when I'm able to feel for the other, I'm able to empathize with the other, then the reaction will not come out. There is nothing like should or shouldn't again. It is not acceptable to me naturally to be angry, though I keep on getting angry. And why do I get angry? Because it may be the case that I'm working here at the level of expectation. If things are going my way, I feel happy. If things are not going my way, I get angry. Isn't it? So that is living at the level of expectation. Giving a thought to it, analyzing the situation is something at the level of thought. When I'm analyzing and comparing various options. At the level of desire, I'm looking into my feeling. I'm looking into my sanskar. And when I'm guided from here, there is no chance for getting angry. Very naturally. I never get angry because I want to see the reality as it is. Okay. I never get upset. I never get uncomfortable. I never get unhappy. And that is the pure self because of right understanding. So, for example, if the students are doing some nuisance, we may get angry initially. But we are able to now see that unless they have the right understanding ensured through right education, this is going to happen. It is not happening today, it may happen tomorrow. So I'm very well prepared that if people do not have right understanding, they will not have definite conduct. As simple as this. So if some news of indefinite conduct comes to me, I'm not getting upset. I'm very well prepared that this is going to happen. Isn't it? Earlier, we were expecting definite conduct either from my spouse or child or family member or student. It was not happening, so I was getting upset and angry. Now, with right understanding, I can see my participation. So, proactively, we are doing UHV VI, right? So that we are able to understand the psychology of the students and develop their psychology to the full human potential.
But yeah,
Ji.
this working on the self is okay. While doing this participation, my competence also in certain level, the other competence also in certain level. Both are in the process of development. In that case, I'm also not in that case so that I can help the other. So if I see somebody's going into the river, it's almost is about to. I'm trying to help to come out, where the other person is trying to pull me in this case, I should be reactive only because for me, more than the other, I should work on myself only. No?
So I will not be reactive.
State when it's if somebody is coming to stab me. At that moment, I cannot know have that state of harmony all within. My first thing is to protect myself rather than the other person. I can even slap back, not an issue. But then that moment, I need to take something.
Yeah, so I will
That
be able to
active
make a
moment.
program for mutual happiness with every level of competence of the other. So first of all, I can see my participation in every situation, so I am not getting upset. Now, if the other person is not able to appreciate my complementarity, I am able to see that also. In fact, there's a famous story that we used to read in the childhood that one saint was bathing in a river and one scorpion was drowning. You might have heard of this story. And he tried to save the scorpion, and every time he put his hand below the scorpion, it used to bite it. But the person was doing the same thing again and again. So one person came and told him that this scorpion is biting you every time and you are trying to save it. So he said that I am doing my participation. The other thing is doing its own participation. Yeah. So as a human being, so for this is a typical example. So for example, if I'm there with a human being, I will not get poisoned. I will not get influenced. I can make the right program. So with right understanding, I will not put my hands. I'll put some paper or wood. Eh? Not smart. In fact, I'm able to make the right program. I can see that the scorpion will bite me and I want to save the scorpion. I'm also clear that the scorpion doesn't have the self. Even if it drowns, I'm not going to be unhappy. But if I want to save that scorpion, I'm clear what a scorpion is. I am clear that the scorpion can bite me, right? I'm also clear how to save the scorpion without getting bitten. So with that clarity, we can work. And this I can apply to human being also. If you're trying to, let's say, understand the concern of somebody, right? Now, what would be the right way to go about it?
The purpose and potential is clear, but how to make a program, right program? Because program is same for all to understand, but then individually, how to make a program with each one.
Yeah. So that would be detailing out. And this is something that requires a skill also. That may come with time also. What works, what doesn't work. Yeah. So for example, when we conducted the workshop initially, we used to discuss about 6 levels of living: self, body, family, society, nature, and then existence. And it came out that people are not able to look at these 6 levels. This is not coming very handy. So we modified it to 4 levels. Now it is coming handy to the people, right? Now this has come through experience. So when I'm making the details of the program, it comes through experience. And it also requires skills. In what way it can be denoted, in what way it can be expressed. So that will work in our mutual relations also. Yeah. Yeah. The details. The basic program is to complement, but the details will keep on refining. Yes. Yeah. So it is time for break. Fine. So we'll discuss it further.